Yeah.
Okay, we've got some people filtering in, so we'll give them a second. Everyone who just came in, do you have Unity installed? Okay, great. Okay, Jason, you can start off the first slides here.
All right. Hello everyone. My name is Jason Pamplona, and this is
Cole?
Cole.
Yeah, Young, last name.
And we're from Video Game Development Club. We're here to present an intro to Unity and game development in general. So yeah, let's go right ahead and start. First,
Left to click in.
yeah, please check in for our workshop through our QR code. Yeah, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, or seconds. Okay. Okay.
Everyone got it?
Yeah. Okay, so some statistics for the for game development in the current game industry. 45% of all gamers are women, but only 24 of game developers are women. So like we're all here to change that, right? So we're really excited for you guys to get into game development and raise this like statistic even more. So yeah. So yeah, how do you start game development? Well, first, we have to start with the basics. Think of what game mechanic your or what your main game mechanic will be, but don't overcomplicate things. It's great that you want to get into the fun little details, but doing so will make your pitch sound convoluted at best. So start with the bare basics and then take it one step at a time. So I got some examples here too. Mario can run and jump. Pac-Man can eat pellets for points. Little Man can, from Punch Out, can punch and dodge, and you can drive a car around and boost. What not to do? I want to make an open world game. Please do not make an open world game during this hackathon. You will not get it finished on time unless you want to, but like really discourage it. And another example is Mario must go through 8 different worlds to find a people named after to save. Princess Peach from Mushroom Kingdom. There's like all of that. You shouldn't focus on the first step of your game and development. But after you figure out your main game mechanic, you should make your hook and pitch it to your fellow game developers. So yeah, I think next slide. So it's hard to get people to play your game or join your development team through just one or several game mechanics alone. So after you come up with your main game mechanic, you should, now's the time to think about what makes the game mechanic engaging without adding more mechanics. So what to do is Mario must go through 8 different worlds. So this is where you kind of add a little bit into it. And also add like some aesthetics to it as well. So the hook for Mario is that they must go through 8 different worlds to fight Bowser, to save Princess Peach and save the Mushroom Kingdom. The next example is Pac-Man is cute. Apparently in history of Pac-Man, a lot of people think Pac-Man is cute and that's why they played Pac-Man back in the day. And then for Punch Out, you fight as Little Mac to rise to the top of the world boxing championship. And another what not to do, this will also be an open world game. Mario also has comments. So and then after you pitch and have your hook, it's time to develop your game. Now that you have your team, your main mechanic, and a pretty awesome idea of the game, now is the time to develop. When you should start developing, it's important that you make full use of the game mechanic you came up with. Get creative with what you have. There's a rule of 3 in general games like Nintendo or Nintendo games where you introduce a mechanic, subvert expectations, and then develop that mechanic. So what that means in general is to introduce your mechanic. So like teach them how to play the game first, and then make a twist on your mechanic, meaning like use that mechanic to try to subvert the expectations of the player so that they can learn what the mechanic is fully, the power of the full mechanic. And after that, use what we taught the player to develop a mastery of the game mechanics. So that last point is like leading up to like the main boss, like Bowser's Castle or something. So use like all the game mechanics that we learned to get through that last level. If you're unsure about something for your game, develop it and test it out. If it works, keep it in your game. If it doesn't work, reiterate and try again. So the main way to develop a game in general is to use iterative design, actually. So just develop. If you have like an idea, develop it, try it out. If it doesn't work, try again. And just keep repeating that process over and over until you think you have a great game on your hands. So yeah. We had an activity to pitch your game, but I assume that everybody is already in teams. But yeah, I think we can just skip through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go straight to what is Unity? Unity is a game engine, which basically is just a tool that allows you to like have a whole ton of like starter code essentially for common game tasks like moving and changing between scenes and stuff like that. And it also gives you access to a bunch of already made resources, such as code other people wrote, art they've done, things like that. So for this workshop, you're going to want to go to this Git repository and either fork it or just download the zip file. These workshop slides are in the Slack channel, or you can just type in the URL and let me know once you've got that done so I have an idea for when to move on. And if anyone needs help like opening it with Unity, call me over and I can help out.
Everyone has Git here, by the way, right? Yeah. Okay.
What is the next slide? Okay, so while everyone's getting that set up, I'll just go over roughly how Unity works. When you open it for the first time, you'll be presented with this. You have a scene on this, the mouse shows up there, right? You've got a scene view over here, and you've got the hierarchy here, which is essentially just everything that's in the scene. And then down here, you can view like your file structure. Okay, and this is already getting into stuff, so I'll give everyone a minute to get the project opened up.
If you're ready, maybe just give a thumbs up and you're good to go.
It'll take a while. While we're waiting, I'll go over some other game development stuff. Unity is one of a number of engines that get used. Unreal is another common one, but if we wanted to give a workshop in that, it would not be a fun time because it would take an hour just to open the project.
Sure, look around and see it.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, so you got the file down?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have your Unity hub?
Yeah.
Just exit out of that. Yeah. Go to like, and then,
Like this.
yeah, the free crystal.
They could very nice and pass it on just like those.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it should be in your, where you down. So go to, VenusHacks.
you won't be able to get it open.
Maybe check here.
Oh,
And then,
yeah, so just open from,
yeah, is it down?
and then it's the version,
But I
don't install anyone, it'll take forever, just, which ones, what do you have installed? Okay,
And then, please.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I've ever
Um,
used that, it will probably work, just click on the one you have installed.
yeah, it should be the right one. Should be, yeah.
And open that.
Thank you.
If it doesn't work,
You to leave right here.
you can try installing, but if you can be, it's gonna be installed in on some conversion. So maybe you can tear program or something like.
Yeah.
It's so straight.
Did you download the file?
It's eight.
Good to go. And then, download it.
Just the code person.
And, open the zip in files. And then go to your, and then your address from the down.
Yeah, you probably just want to use the version that you have. Because it will take a long time to install it.
Okay.
If it's without.
And,
Do you have the Unity editor? Okay, you can not have any version installed in each case. It's installed.
I don't.
yeah.
You'll know your messages. This is incredible.
Yeah, your, the editor installed, because you can open it right now. Oh, okay.
Okay, while everyone's installing stuff, I'll just go over some of the basics of Unity. So, when you get this project open, you'll see there's a handful of folders here. We've got art assets, prefabs, scenes, scripts, and this last one, Text Mesh Pro, which just gets added in by Unity. So in Unity, the big like things you use to organize are called prefabs. They're essentially like reusable components that you can put in different scenes, and they'll all be with English. They'll all behave more or less the same way. So to make a new one, you right click in your little folder here, go up to the top where it says create, and then you click prefab. And this will give you just a brand new empty object.
Do you want to explain what prefabs do specifically?
Yeah. So by themselves, they don't do anything. You have to like add stuff to them. But what they're used for is just like having reusable components. And you can like nest them. So inside of a prefab, you can have a different prefab. And it's very useful for helping have stuff consistent across levels instead of having to like copy paste it every single time. And then whenever you make a change in one, you have to make it in the other. There is one downside to prefabs though, and it's that if two people edit them at the same time, you're gonna have the worst merge conflicts you've ever seen in your life. So just don't do it. Yeah. So with Unity, I can go into this prefab, I can add new stuff through the little hierarchy thing here on the left that right now is just showing me what's in the prefab. So I can say I want to give it a 2D object, I want to have a sprite, and I'll give it a square sprite for now. And then hit enter, hit that name. And now we actually have something in this prefab. So it automatically makes this new game object. All these little things with cubes on the left here are game objects. The square is a child of this one. So if you like move this prefab, square moves with it effectively. If we want to change what the square looks like so that we can actually have like art in our game, we can go over and drag in any PNGs or JPEGs or whatever that we imported to our project. For now, I'll drag in this Archer guy, and then see it's pretty small. So what we can do is we can scale up this whole thing through the transform here on the right. This is the inspector tab that just shows us like the properties of whatever the current game object we're working with is. So I think we probably want to make this like 3 times bigger. Okay. So now we have this guy, and we didn't scale this one, but because we scaled the parent component, it affects all of the children. Okay. That's a brief intro to like how game objects work. Does everyone have the project open, or does anybody have the project open? One. Okay, well, I'll give people some time to keep installing. I'll go over how scenes work. So in scenes, you can create a new one the same way we created the prefab, more or less. You go into the folder you want it to be in, right click on the file viewers, go to create, and it will be here in scene. Then we can just name this level 1. So then we can double click to open this. It'll give us a little view of what's in the scene. Right now, there's nothing except a camera, which Unity just sticks in every scene you make. But we can actually already play the level using this little play button at the top here. And this will just let it run in the editor, and we can see there's nothing there right now, but this is our game. If we want to add stuff into the scene, we can drag it in to the left here into this hierarchy, or we can, or we can just drag it directly into the scene view here and place it wherever we want it. In Unity, sometimes it's annoying to have to like click on this stuff and move it. You have these tools on the left. It's similar to other stuff where you drag it around with the move tool, rotate it with the rotate tool, scale it with the scale tool, and I honestly, I've never used this one in my life. You probably will never need it. Okay, but we now have that in the scene, and the point of having prefabs is that like if you want to have 2 of them, it's super easy to just drag in the second one. And if we go into the prefab and we make a change to one of them, and let's say we actually want these to be coins instead, we'll notice that this is huge just because these are a much higher resolution, so that's just how it imported, but we probably want these to be way less big. And you can see that that's what this little chain thing here is for, is that it allows you to lock them all so you can easily scale without having to go and change each of these fields one by one. So if we go back into scenes, into our level, and we'll hit save, just because it's always good to hit save, we'll see that it now changed both of those coins, and we only had to make the change in one place. So that's kind of the benefit of prefabs. If you've ever used like Figma, it has components. Unity has prefabs. Another thing we can do is we can just add non-prefab stuff directly to the scene. Like say we want to have a background in the scene. We can just drag in this art asset that's like a background. And then it just sits there on the scene. But you'll notice now you can't see our coins anymore. That's because in Unity 2D, whatever is on the lowest z-axis, so like the most negative, is what's gonna show up in the camera. And right now they're both on the same z-axis, which is something you really don't want because then you have no clue what's gonna show up. So what we can do is, since this is a background, we're always gonna want it in the back. We can just set it to like a z of 20, and then now we can see our coins again. One thing to note is if we wanted to like make these coins in the front and we're like, okay, let's set it to z of negative 100, they disappear. That's because they actually went behind the z of the camera itself, so they're just not showing up anywhere. This is because Unity 2D is actually not 2D, it's 3D. It just looks like it's 2D because they lay it all out really weird. Okay, let's go back into 2D view. Okay. Check in again. Where are we on installing, or are we at least close? Okay. Okay. And does anyone else have the project open yet?
All the editors in kind of download. Yeah. Should I try this one?
Is that what you have?
So,
So these are like the Apple Silicon processors. Do you have the Apple Silicon processors, or do you have those installed?
and square. When you have a square there, then you can go to your, assets, art assets.
An Apple Pro.
Then you can drag or, click the square first.
Remind
Click and drag this cherry onto that,
It's a pretty long download. That's why.
and then now you have the archer.
I thought that has.
You should just install the editor when you get that.
That, so that you can copy it.
This is the.
Yeah,
it's
so like quickly.
the hardest part of Unity is getting started because there's so much like stuff.
You have,
Oh, that's kind
oh, you can click and drag it into the prefabs here, so click on prefabs as well. You can drag it square into this. Now, feature, which means you can change any, part of the, components.
Yeah. 21 3.
No, but like,
Stuff is sure.
generally, I think, I think it's
Like all the maps. Which is
typically how we say. Was the line. And then put.
Okay.
So now, that's our. If you wanna do that, try to get it. I just do that, yes, I think I do the prefab now because you have it as a.
Or no, it's in prior to them.
Yeah, if you wanna.
But yeah, mine failed like.
Okay. So.
Step refreshing. Oh, should I try that? Hopefully.
This should work fine. It doesn't really matter if it's the child or if you have to clean it directly in there. Just keep in mind that this will be just like the file structure or something.
To like. Ruin this, yeah, any of these.
To get that from there, you just need to do is
We can go in Sabrina,
Yes, clears.
add a new to the object, right? And so now we have a child and just put the same art there and delete it from the first one.
Okay.
And then go back to the first one, and delete this, right? We go into that. With the 3 dots. And remove the one. And now it should be over the first.
Okay. I'll be honest, it seems like the people who haven't installed so far are having such monumentally confusing problems that I don't know if it's ever gonna work today, so we're gonna go forward with the workshop. Okay, if you wanna look at what we have set up for this workshop, the slides have it all in like probably too much detail of like very step by step what you have to do to get the game to even probably further than we'll have it today. So I'll go back into this art I had before, and I actually do want this to be the character. So I'm gonna switch this back out again for the character, and I scaled it crazy last time, so I'm gonna bring that back. Okay, so pull up the slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think this part? Yeah, this is where the script is at.
Yeah, okay. So if you want your character to have behavior that isn't just like default Unity stuff, you've got to create a new script. So I'm going into our scripts folder, create new C# script. And we're going to call this player because this is going to be our player character. And then when we open this, depending on like what editor you have installed, it might open in Notepad or Visual Studio. You can set the preference in Unity, but Visual Studio is the best for working with Unity, but it's also a huge install, so I'm not expecting anyone to have it today. If we go into player CS, we'll see this is like the default Unity script that Unity automatically puts in as the base. Start function gets called on start, update function gets called on update. Can we like put it sideways? So
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So in update, what we want to do basically is take input so we can move our character around. So we're going to call a function move, and C# convention is really weird. All the functions basically are capital. Don't ask me why. It's just how it is. And then we'll create a function, private void move. Great. Okay. That's the thing I don't like about Visual Studio is that the autocorrect can be really aggressive. Okay. And we'll say if input dot get key is W, then what we want to do is create a new vector here. Vector 2 equal to move dir. Wait. Oh my God. The autocorrect is insane today. Equals new vector 2 0 0. So this is just making a vector that has an X component, a Y component. And then if we're pressing W, we want it to move up. So we're going to add we're going to add a new vector to that has a Y component of 1. And then we're also going to want something to like actually handle physics and movement. So we're going to add something called a serialized field, which sounds really weird, but it's basically just a way that we can access stuff in the editor, and we'll be able to drag something into here later. So we're going to give it a rigid body 2D and just call it RB. I like short variable names. And then we're going to say RB dot velocity equals move dir. that is not a function. I don't know why I called it like a function. Okay, so every time a frame updates, it's going to check, are we pressing the W key? If we are, it's going to move us up. So we're going to go back into the editor here. It's going to compile C# scripts, which sometimes takes weirdly long. Wow, okay, struggling today. Okay, and then we're going to go back on this player we've got. We're going to add our player script from this little add component menu over on the right in the inspector. And then it wants this rigid body 2D component, so we're also going to add one of those. And then we can actually drag this in to this field from right here to right here, and that will reference it in the script. So now we can go back to our scene. We have two of these guys. We probably don't want to. So I'm going to go in, delete one of them.
So you can show like, how the prefabs work, because I think both would move at the same time.
Yeah, so because they both have the same script, they'll both move at the same time. So I'll just hold that up. But we also notice they're falling because they have gravity, which is an interesting choice for right now. So what we can do is actually go into the prefab, go in here, and this Unity component, rigid body 2D, automatically has a gravity scale. We can go and turn that off. And then if we go back to our game, we can play it again. And now you can see they don't fall anymore. Okay. So we probably want to add more than just the support to move up. So we're going to add all of the directions here. So W, A, S, and D, and then we're going to set all of these little vectors to match that. So A should be to the left, so that's -1x. S should be down, so that's -1y. And D should be right, so that's +1x, 0y. And now, if we go back,
Yeah, we're lucky this isn't Unreal, because that would take
yeah,
more to
no, it's we joke about Unreal because we've experienced the pain of using it. Okay, so now we can move in all the directions, but we're super slow. So we can go in, multiply our vector by some value. It's probably going to be a good idea to put it in a variable so we can change it easier later. And then you can set that up at the top here, private float, move speed, and C# is really weird. If you ever have like a floating point variable or anything with a decimal, you have to give it a little f at the end, or C# will just freak out. So 5f is, it's not like hexadecimal or anything. It's just saying like floating point 5. So now you should be able to move 5 times as fast. That's another fun thing about Unity is sometimes if you try and switch into the tab, it just doesn't work. Okay, we're moving much faster. This is better. So if I play that again, you'll notice we can really quickly move off the screen, which we probably don't want. So we can go back into the scenes. Wrong scene. Okay. And we've got 2 of these. Let's delete one of them. Okay. What we can do is we can drag the camera to be a child of this prefab, but you'll see this weird little white plus sign. That means it's only going to take effect in this scene because we weren't editing directly on the prefab. There's an easy way to fix this. It's to go over, click on the base prefab, go to overrides on the right, and this will show you all the stuff that's only affecting the prefab in this scene. And we can hit apply all, and that'll make it so that it changes it in every scene. Now we can start again. and the camera will follow our player. It's a little off center though, so we can go in, set the position to 0, 0, and it'll be centered in. Okay. I'm trying to do like the speed run version of this, so I'm skipping some stuff, but okay. You will notice too that we can just like go through all the walls. To change this, we need to add in colliders to basically tell it where there are walls. So what you can do here is click on this background object, add component, and then give it a collider. And you want to pick this box collider 2D. It's just a simple way of having 2D physics. And then you're going to click on this edit bounding volume button. And then you can drag these to set it to be just the walls. And then you can keep adding more and more of these. And because they're all on this component, I'll show you in a second. If we move this thing, the colliders will move with it. Okay. For now, I'll just put in 2 walls because we're short on time. Okay. Unity is being extra slow today. Okay, so we'll see we can actually still move through the walls. That's because we also need to add a collider to our player here. So we're gonna add a component, and we probably actually want it on, I'll just throw it on there. Collider 2D, and then again, we can edit it so it actually matches up with where our player is. And then we want to override apply all again so that that change will take effect in every scene. Okay, and now you'll see we can't go through the wall. How much time do we have? Okay, I can speed run this. Let's make a new prefab so we can have coins in the level that we can pick up. It's going to be create prefab, and I'll just call it coin. We're going to double click this, and in here, let's add component, and we can add a sprite. This is another way of adding art, is to just add this component first, and then we can drag into there. And now it's all sitting in one object instead of having children. And again, we saw these were huge before, so we want to scale them down to a normal size. And then we want this coin to actually do stuff, so we're going to make a new script again. Let's C# script coin. Okay. Go over to this file, and then we don't actually need to do anything with start or update here. What we want to do is have on trigger enter 2D, and we're going to have this function that we can set up so whenever anything touches this coin, this event will get called. And what we want to do in here is say on this collision, we can get the reference to the thing that entered us. And then we can say, we want the component from that is the player. And we'll give them a function called add coin, which we haven't written yet, but we'll go over and do that shortly. We'll say public void add coin. If I could type. Okay. And then let's also give us a variable so we can keep track of how many coins we have. Static int coins equal 0. So we start off with 0 coins, and this is static, so it should persist across levels. And then in here, really simple, coins plus plus. And to make sure this is working, we can add a debug statement. In Unity, the way to do this is debug.L log. And then we can just say, let's print out the number of coins we have. Okay. Player does not contain it. Did I misspell it?
It's
I had a lowercase a. C# is, it's a fine language, but the capitalization drives me insane sometimes. Okay. So this on trigger enter 2D requires this coin to have a collider component like we saw earlier. But the difference is this collider we want to check is trigger. And what this allows us to do is basically like walk through it instead of it having like a hard box that will like stop us. So if we go back into the game, actually we want to go back into the scene view here. So that's another thing is game view, you can't edit anything here. Scene view, you can. Prefabs, so let's add in a coin here. And then we play the level. We should be able to walk into this coin. Should, okay. On trigger enter 2D. Collision.gameObject.get component player add coin.
I don't think you add them.
Yeah, I mean, if I get rid of the if, it should be more. That is okay. Oh, you know what the problem is? I think you have to actually add your script to the object. That's a common mistake by me, at least. I make a lot of mistakes. Okay, so now that we actually have the script that will tell it to do the behavior, it should work. So that's another thing too, is like if you just name the script the same as the prefab, does not get auto applied. So now we get the little one that tells us we picked up one coin, we picked up a second coin. So we can just keep picking up this coin over and over again. Probably don't want that. So we can go back into our script and we can say this dot game object dot set active false. And this will basically just turn off. So now if we pick up a coin, if it will reload script assemblies first. Okay. Now if we pick up a coin, it disappears, we get the coin. This is pretty good. Okay. But if we had someone playing this game, they would never be able to see our little debug statements. So let's show you a way to actually have UI in the game that we can see. So let's keep in mind, we want this probably to be on every level that has a player. So we can go to our player prefab, add something. Unity has this UI menu, and you're going to want to give it a canvas, which is like the base for all UI. It just holds it all. You can double click it to zoom out. You'll see it's fucking huge compared to everything else. And then we can add in on this a piece of text. Okay, and we'll just call this points. And we probably want this to not be right in the center of the screen because that would be annoying if you were playing the game. Okay, let's put it up in the top left there. Another thing about Unity is that the canvas default settings are really bad. You're always going to want to change this constant pixel size to scale with screen size and set this to a normal resolution like 1920 by 1080. And we'll see our text is over here. And we can reposition that so that it actually looks okay. Okay, and if we want to set this text programmatically, we can do that. And we probably want to do it from the player script so that we can get the number of coins. So we can add in another one of these serialized fields, except that's really, what do I want to reference the player from the player? Okay, so we want to add in a text mesh pro UGUI object, really long name. It's just a text field. And if you have a fancy editor, it'll automatically add this using TM Pro import. If you don't, it won't, and it'll give you really weird errors. So make sure you have this somewhere at the top of your file if you ever reference a text object. So every time we pick up a coin, we want to set this text dot text. And it's very easy to set the text, just tell it to be equal to, let's say, coins plus the number of coins. And then we go back into our level. I did not realize how much time it spent compiling until I started trying to do it in real time here. Okay, we go back into our level. We can run into this coin. Object reference not set to an instance of object. I did this on purpose. This was not a mistake. That's a lie. But it does show you another common error is that, so if we go into our player, we now see that it has this empty field. We gave it the field for text, but we forgot to drag it in. So this is our little text object. We can drag it in from the hierarchy panel on the left all the way over to the right into this text mesh field. And then save. Okay. And now if we play, we shouldn't, in theory, get this error. Okay. We pick up the coin, it gets set to coins 1. But you may have noticed at the beginning of the level, it just said new text. So at the start of the level, we can use this start function. And whenever we start a level, or more specifically, whenever this game object gets instantiated, we can call a function. So tm.text, and we can just do the same thing here. Coins plus equal coins, or coins plus ones. Okay. Now, if it'll compile. Okay, we can see. Okay. I think half the time has been spent waiting for these load messages. We can see it starts off as coins 0. Okay. How much time do we got? Okay.
About 10 minutes or
So I'm gonna speed run something. Let's make a new prefab called level exit. And we're gonna go over how to change scenes in Unity. Where is prefab? Okay. These Unity menus are like crazy. Sometimes it drives me insane. Okay, this one, let's give it a little door. If I could drag it in. Okay. Let's give it a door, and we're going to want to run into this door so we can give it a collider. And like before, we probably want this to be a trigger so that we can actually get in it. And then scale this down so that it's the size. And then let's create a new component or a new script. I'm sorry. Script component. I guess they're interchangeable in Unity. Okay. And we're going to call this one door. I'm very creative with names. In here, we can just copy paste the same function we had from before. And we're going to say on trigger enter. But what we want to do is actually scene manager dot load scene shit. Wait. I don't know if this is, you know what? I'm not very confident in my own code, so I'm going to reference the version of the project that I already finished. And it's somewhere in my terribly organized files. Wait, it's in finished. Okay. Assets. Okay, scripts. Exit. Here, we found it. Minor miracle. Okay. I'm just going to copy paste this one because we're short on time. And I think a lot of people aren't exactly following along because Unity is fun and hates people installing it. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're saying if collision.gameObject.tag equal player, we're going to load the next scene in the build index, which is, oh my God, the one thing I do like about Unreal is that it only compiles when you tell it to. Unity compiles nonstop and it drives me insane sometimes. Okay, so the build index is this thing here. You would go into the build settings. You can see right now all we have is windscreen. We probably want to add this scene that we have. We can open it. And then we go back into file build settings. We can add our open scenes. And then we should be able to drag them and change the order. So we want level 1 to be first. And then if we look at this, what it does is it gets the scene we're currently on, adds 1, loads it. Only if the tag of the thing that entered is player. So let's go over tags real quick. If we look at our player, we can see it has this thing over here, tag untagged. So Unity has these default tags that it'll give you. You can create your own if you go to add tag, but player is a really common one, so they give it to you. Just click on player here. And then let's go back into our scene. Actually, before we do that, let's open up our door here. I'm not making the same mistake I did last time. We're going to give it the actual door script we just wrote. And then we are now going into the scene. Go back into our prefabs menu and let's drop in a little door. A big door, I guess. I want to scale this way, way down. And then even the scale stuff, you still got to go apply overrides if you want it to be consistent across levels. This is still a pretty massive door, but let's just throw it over here. Weird place for a door, and it doesn't really fit in this 2D level, but give me a break. I have a hard time finding art assets for this game. Okay, so now we can pick up our coin. We can go over. Oh my God, for real. Okay, what's wrong this time? Fun little game. Our door object. It has the door script, it has the collider. Collision.gameObject.tag equal player. This time I really have no clue what I messed up, and that's something you get with Unity. Is our player correctly tagged? It's not the player. Our player is correctly tagged. This was working when I did it last time. Okay. You know what? This one is truly beyond me. Let me move the door closer just so it's easier to test. What?
We can do a debug log inside.
Did I drag in the right? Yeah. So this is pro tip on Unity debugging. It's a pain in the ass to use the regular debugger, so just throw in debug log statements everywhere and say enter. Yeah, this is our last thing that we're doing. Okay. If it doesn't print anything, workshop is over. If it does,
Yeah.
then I'm just pulling the other thing out of the script to show you.
Yeah, we also might want to show some resources that we could look.
Yeah, I've got that in the.
Oh, there.
It worked that time. It just, I think what happened is I forgot to hit save on the script, which I do all the time. Okay. That is the end of that. Okay. We've got all these slides. If you want to go through it more slowly, I walk through like a more organized way of doing all this in these slides. Very, very slow. So, you know, this game might not seem like a lot. You run around, you pick up coins. There's one door in the level, you go into it. But it covers like movement, how to set up reusable components, stuff like that. Here's some other common things you'll want to do in games. A lot of links here. If you're interested in learning more, we have a Discord for our club where we make games. And here's some fun tips. A lot of this is would have helped me not make a lot of the errors I did today, but I ignored all my own words of wisdom. And here's some good resources for learning Unity on your own time. And
Um,